Miss Alicia from the Trustful Public Library. I've got a fun story that I'm going to share with you today. And since this is Valentine's Day week, this story is all about love. The title of this story is Never Too Little to Love. This story has a mouse and a giraffe in it. This is Tiny Too Little. And Tiny Too Little loves somebody, but she's way up there. That is a long way for a little mouse to reach. That's just so long that if you're tiny and you really want a kiss, you really got to reach up high to get that kiss from a giraffe. Tiny Too Little thinks of a way of how he can reach Topsy Too Tall. So, Tiny Too Little tries to reach her by first standing on his tiptoes and on top of a thimble. But he's far too little even on his tiptoes on a thimble. He still can't reach Topsy Too Tall. But he tries again, except this time, Tiny Too Little tries reaching Topsy Too Tall on his tiptoes on a matchbox. But he's far too little, even on tiptoes on a matchbox. He still can't reach her. So then he stands on top of a watermelon. But he's far too little, even on his tiptoes on a watermelon. Well, then Tiny Too Little stands on a teacup. But he's far too little, even on tiptoes, on top of a teacup. He's almost tall, but not quite enough to reach Topsy Too Tall. So next, he stands on a cabbage. But he's far too little, even on tiptoes, on a cabbage. Well, next, Tiny Too Little decides, maybe I'll try something else. So then he stands on top of a candle. But Tiny Too Little, even on his tiptoes, is still not close enough to Topsy Too Tall. Yes, he's still too far away. So then he stands on a clock. But he's far too little, even on tiptoes, on a clock. Well, then he decides, well, what about a cupcake? Surely I can reach Topsy Too Tall then. But even on a cupcake, he's still too little on tiptoes to reach Topsy Too Tall. So then he gets a really good idea. What about stilts? I'll try standing on stilts. So then he finally gets on top of the stilts. And, oh, that's just perfect. He's on his tiptoes, on the stilts, and he reaches way up high to the Topsy Too Tall, the giraffe. And when he did, something happened. Because he was standing on all of these other items just to try to reach Topsy Too Tall. Do you know what happens when we reach up high on our tiptoes and we're on something tall? We start to wobble. back and forth, and that's what happened to Tiny Two Little. He wobbled, 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 until everything fell and made a crash sound. And then as all those items fell, Tiny Two Little fell too. All the way down, down, down on the ground. Well, then Topsy Too Tall saw all of this happen to Tiny Two Little, and she knew the struggle that he had, and that Tiny Two Little really wanted that kiss, but wasn't quite tall enough to reach her. And Topsy Too Tall loves Tiny Two Little, but he's just way down there. And it's a long way down if you're tall, but it's even a longer way up if you're tiny. So, Topsy Too Tall bends all the way down to Tiny Two Little and gives him a big kiss right on the nose, just like that. Which just goes to show that even if you're tiny, you are never too little to love. I hope you enjoyed today's story, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's Day. Bye-bye.